Oh, button. Wrong button.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. I think I started sharing it.
all right, there we go. Make sure everything's good. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm Ozzy, St. Anger Productions. So I fully support local entertainment. However, local is not limited to just Tonkawa, Tulsa, or wherever. Local can literally be anywhere you are located. Local is your scene and your location. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I had Chase of Raven's Banquet on here. Welcome, Raven.
Hey,
Raven's Banquet.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for being on here. So, with that little introduction being said, tell me a little bit about what local means to you. What is your location and describe the local entertainment scene?
So, our location, we're based out of San Antonio. Me and my brother and our guitarist are based just outside of San Antonio, but we kind of just group it into San Antonio because nobody really knows the little town that we live in. But we're out of San Antonio. We've been playing for about 2 years now, maybe a little bit longer.
Nice.
And obviously, you saw us at like Rocklahoma and some a pretty big event.
Oh, yeah.
But local for us has for a long time because we've been playing for personally been playing for a lot of years. Local was usually just San Antonio, just the San Antonio region. But over the past year, 2 years that we've been together in this band, local has been regional. I mean, we've been to we just did some shows in Florida. We've done shows in Austin, Houston, Dallas, and we're I think we did one in Mississippi as well. We did one in Biloxi, Mississippi as well this past year.
Nice.
And obviously we did, like I said earlier, we did Rocklahoma, so we've been up in Oklahoma. So regionally, I would say probably Texas. Locally, I would say San Antonio, but it's expanding a lot just over in the short period of time that we've been a band. And the scene here in San Antonio is very much a very heavy metal, very screamo, and in that Latin, a lot of Latin music as well, because we're very close to the border.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of Latino music and a lot of really heavy metal and death metal. I wouldn't say death metal, but like screamo. And I've seen like shows that are packed full of people at some of these venues just to listen to these local bands that come in, and we get bands like Guar and stuff that come through as well. So it's a good scene for all of that. For our style of music, it's not the greatest, but I mean, we still have a lot of San Antonio fans that love us and still come out and support our shows.
Hell yeah. So it kind of sounds like it's a little bit, your style's a little bit different than the scene, but you still
Yeah, a
got a
little
lot of
bit.
supporters.
Yeah, still got a lot of people that come out and show some love, and we actually have a show coming up here May 30th. Haven't fully announced it with the flyer yet. We're getting it made. We got a show we're going to be doing down here in San Antonio on May 30th over at Fitzgerald's that I'll be posting about here pretty soon and getting the flyer up.
Hell yeah, and I'll be sure to share that for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. Okay, so you skipped ahead a little bit. How far is your reach? Um, so how far are you actually willing to take your music?
I mean, we're willing to take it pretty far. We've been, pushing to try and get in a lot of these major festivals all around the country.
Mhm.
Incarceration, and trying to get on Rocklahoma again. I think we may try and get on Warped Tour. We're kind of still talking about that. But unfortunately, most of these got booked up already because you kind of have to book it almost a year in advance just to be able to potentially get a spot. But we're willing to go pretty far, as long as it's worth doing in terms of financially. because
Mhm.
there's a lot of money goes into that gas for a motorhome. It's
Mhm.
expensive. It's more expensive than what I think people would think. And so, we try and we're going to try and get out a little bit more, especially more this year, and kind of just get around. We want to get more our name more towards the east a little bit. We've been playing on a lot of south and west, or sorry, south and so we've been playing a lot of south and east. Been wanting to get out west. So that's what I meant to say. So we're trying to get maybe a little bit more out west and a little bit more up north, back in Oklahoma and a few places like that.
Okay. I might have to see if I can fix that Oklahoma thing.
Yeah.
Um,
We actually haven't announced this either. We are set to be playing Rock the River up in Oklahoma here on, I think it's August either the 14th or 19th. So we're going
up
to be
there at
back up.
Tahlequah.
Yeah, yeah. And so we're going to be
Yeah.
back up. We're going to be back up there here in the next couple months toward, just to go and have fun with you guys. So we're super excited for it, man. We loved playing, Rocklahoma. It was an awesome event. And so just to be able to go back up there and share our music with potentially with the same people that were at that event is just so much fun for
Hmm.
us because we got a lot of love
Absolutely.
at that show.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
I think you even got to meet Rocklahoma's hot dog, didn't you? If I
Yes,
remember correctly.
if I remember correctly, I think we tried.
Yeah, that thing's in my bus right now.
Yeah.
So so what is it? I don't usually ask this one because it doesn't usually get brought up, but since you and Ravens Banquet's actually are actively trying to do this, what does it take to get on some of these festivals and bigger tours as a smaller band?
Um, it and it's going to sound so cliche. It is honestly just about putting in a lot of hard work. I think
Say that one
and
again.
I think it's very cliche, but it's all about putting in a lot of hard work. If you
Hard
don't put
work.
in the work to try, you have to put in work not only to try and get on the show because you have to, go through people and, you have to talk to this person who then has to talk to that person who has got to talk, make sure it's good with these people, which is in itself already a lot of work. But you also have to make sure that you're not putting yourself out there when you're not ready to be doing any of that. I know we had put ourselves in a position where we had enough time to do it because at the time we didn't have any jobs. We all had, we were going out, we were doing practice almost 4 times a week for 4 hours, during the week a day. And,
Nice.
and so we had a lot of time preparing to not only, make sure our music was sounding great and to make sure that our playing ability was great, but our showmanship was great. We worked on our showmanship, how to, act with the crowd, how to act with people, get everybody excited because there's, that's a big part of being an entertainer and being a musician is, one of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten that I say all the time is people can go stream your music anytime they want it. They're not there to listen to you just play your songs. They're there to come see you. They're there to come watch you. So, it's about putting in the work towards not only trying to get the show, but making sure that you yourself are prepared for the show. Because you can even potentially get on a big show or on a big tour and mess it all up for any future endeavors because you just weren't prepared.
Hmm.
And I know that it's easy for me to say because like I said, we didn't have any jobs, we weren't, we had the time to put in that much effort. So I know that it was a little bit easier for us. But I mean, I have seen bands that do put in, just as much effort or try to put in just as much effort even though they've got a lot going on. So if
Hmm.
that's how I feel about it is you really have to put in the time, you have to have the effort, and you have to have the resilience to just keep going at it, keep pushing.
Absolutely. And it was mentioned the other day, I believe. Was it, it was one of the last couple of ones that I had interviewed. They brought up the fact that it's not a hobby; it's a job.
No, no, it's a job.
And if you treat it like a hobby, you're not getting into those festivals and stuff, are you?
No, no. I mean, a hobby. Don't get me wrong. I think for everybody, it starts out as a hobby. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think music starts out as a hobby, but very few people can turn it into a career because it is very difficult to turn into a career. I know a lot of people that are still going at it, and they're older. They're maybe 60, and they're still going at it and getting their name out there and making it for themselves. But if you treat it as a hobby, you're right. You're gonna just play local shows. You're not in terms of local in like maybe your city or your town. But if you go out there and treat it not only as a hobby, but if you treat it as a job, like I need to make this work, I want this to work, then you're going to go out and you're not just going to leave right after your set. You're going to go and you're going to hang out with the crowd. You're going to make some fans. You're going to go make connections. Um, and you're going to do well for yourself. One another
Hmm.
really great piece of advice
Let's
is
hear it.
is you never know who is going to be in that audience, and you never know when they're going to be there. So it doesn't matter if you're playing in a bar with like a 3 foot by, you know, 3 foot wide, 7 foot long stage or whatever, versus an arena. You play the show as if your life depended on it. You play it like it's the biggest show of your life. You put on a performance
Hmm.
like it's the biggest show of your life. And I try and do that. I know the band tries to do that every time we go on stage. We always try and make sure we're not just half-assing it. We're going at it. We're trying as hard as we possibly can, because not only do we want it to be a good show for ourselves, because we're representing ourselves, uh, in front of everybody, in front of the world, but we also want the audience to enjoy it so that it's something that they can remember.
100%. When you talk about your audience and you don't know who's out there, I was watching this interview. Um, there's this sound engineer that was talking about having a conversation with another buddy of his that one of the shows they did, and this is pretty good sized band. I don't remember the band, but it was a pretty good sized band. But there was a person that was in the audience on TikTok that had 1 million subscribers, way more than what the band had.
Yeah.
The power of social media, like you said, you don't know who's out there.
Yeah, it could be a producer. It could be a very big TikTok influencer who is like, you know what, go check this band out. I saw them the other night. They were amazing.
Hmm.
It's definitely it's a very spontaneous business in some of and how it kind of works. You could be like, not really caring and just like, yeah, I'm just going to do the show. I don't really want to do it, but I guess I'll go out there and do it. And you may half-ass the performance, and you could have had somebody who could have changed your life. You know, could have made the entire
No doubt.
band or your music career skyrocket if you would put on a good performance, or if you just put a little bit of that effort in there.
Yeah. So it can have its negative effects too. If you get up there and you just royally mess things up, or we see it all too often, you say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's all over the internet by the next morning.
Oh yeah.
It's on the
No,
internet by the time you get off stage and you're checking
yeah,
your
most of
notifications.
the time, it is, but it's definitely become a very hard thing because you're especially being in the spotlight, being a musician, no matter what level you are, if you're trying to make it, or even if you're a very very big name person, your life is out there for everybody to see. You are out in front of everyone. Anything you
Yes.
say or do will be used against you, for good or for worse. And so I'm
And
always,
not in a court of law.
and not in a court of law, but
No.
it really is kind of especially with social media now. It's become it can, in some ways, like we said, it can skyrocket your career. You never know who's going to be in the audience. It could be a great thing for you, but at the same time, you might just not be having a great day. You might say something that you didn't really mean, or it can be misconstrued a certain way, and your career is over. And it's
Mhm.
become a very kind of like walking on a tightrope a little bit, because you're not wanting to, I mean, depending on who you are, but for I know for us, we're not trying to walk on any specific side of anything. We just want to spread our music and the emotions that we have, and we want to try and connect with people in the best way that we can. And so it's become a very difficult thing for, certain artists and for certain people, because it's just it can be very it can be kind of scary, trying to get with everything.
Absolutely. And you're full of good wisdom already, and we're just now getting started.
I was taught pretty well. So you learn. I've been doing this. I've been playing music since I was about 13, and I've been doing this. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been playing in bars for a long time as well. Just taking to starting it from a hobby and being something that was just, as my dad would say, was something to just get me off the game during the summer, to being the band that it is today, and playing major shows, playing with major bands. You learn, if you pay attention, you learn pretty quickly on how everything works and how to kind of navigate it.
hmm But it's also nice having extra help, like what you could provide somebody, or
Yeah,
Brandon Young have had enough, what he can provide to somebody to help guide.
yeah, and we've
You
gotten a
don't have
lot
to
of
get in here
that.
and do it alone.
No, no, you don't. We've gotten a lot of help. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we did it all ourselves. We've had a lot of help from a lot of good people and a lot of friends. Band West Creek, they really helped us out when this band formed, and we're trying to get our stuff together. They really helped us out and took us under their wing. And, like I said, now we've got, John from, or not John, sorry. That was John from West Creek. Shout out to him. But we have Aaron from Kingdom Collapse, who's been helping us out, and he's been, kind of showing me the ropes, kind of seeing how to talk with people, and um, he's been helping us out as of recently. So it's definitely, and also another quick shout out to Buster and all the guys from the band down here, Living Dark Days. They've also been tremendous. He's helped me so much with my vocals, and being able to sing the way that I was, because for a very long time, um, there wasn't a rock vocalist that I knew of, or that was even in my corner, to teach me how to sing what I wanted to sing. Taught me how to
hmm
sing. I had, several teachers that taught me how to sing, and they did an excellent job at it. But to do what I wanted to do and to be able to reach what I wanted to reach, he very much helped me get there. So it's definitely something that, I don't take for granted. And, if you have the right people in your corner, you can get really far. But it's one of those things where it also depends on if you're taking it as a hobby or a job. If people see you putting the effort into it, and people see, like, yeah, no, this kid really wants to make it, you'll get people
hmm
that want to help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're just the opposite, though. If you're just treating it like a hobby, or you can treat it as a job, but that's all it is a job, not a career.
Yeah. So,
You can see that in people too. It's like, you're just there, what, to collect a paycheck, or to get the fans, or, what are you doing?
yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
seem like you're enjoying it.
Yeah. I
You
wonder
can
what it's
tell.
like to collect a paycheck from playing music. I hope I get to that at some point.
Yeah, I
Lord.
hope so too.
Yeah.
That seems to be a thing with a lot of young musicians and young bands. Is It's hard to get paid.
Yeah, it's difficult. And it's hard because it's a very big uh there's so many factors that go into it. With bar, what I think a lot of people don't understand is, it's not like, oh, I go play a show and I get paid a certain amount. It's, you get paid based upon how many people you bring in, or sometimes there is a guarantee, and then you get on top of that how many people you bring into a show. But that really isn't until you've made a name for yourself. If you're just an upcoming band, most of the time you're not going to get paid. It's more for the exposure of getting in front of an audience, who will then start coming to your shows, and then that's how you earn your money. Um, but especially over the past few years, with everything that's been going on, just with the economy and everything, some people just don't want to spend the money to go out to a show, or they can't,
hmm
because we've got some bars down here that are very great venues, but you have to pay $20 to park, and then you have to pay $20 to get into the door, and then you got to pay $10 for a beer. You're already $50 and you're already
There goes all
$50
that merch money.
yeah, there's nobody's going to buy merch. Nobody's going to be able to support the band in that way. I mean, yeah, you've got people that came to the show and, you get about half of the door money or, maybe a little bit less, but you don't even make money on your merch. And that's if you're a traveling band. That's usually what, people are banking on, is being able to make money from the merch to pay for the gas or to pay for the food, to be able to get to the next show. So, I mean, most of the time when people plan tours and, we've looked into it ourselves, is you choose bars that you don't really have to do any of that stuff with, but the better the venue, you're going to kind of come into contact with some of that stuff if they don't have that parking, if they don't have, that kind of space. So it can be a very difficult thing. There's also times where, you're surprised and sometimes you get paid and you didn't think you were going to get paid. But it's like I said earlier, you kind of have to stick it out. You have to put in a little bit before you're going to get out a little bit. So you have to put yourself on the line and go, you know what? Yeah, I might not be getting paid tonight, but the show was great and I got a lot of fans out of it. So the next show, next time I play here, I'll have a lot more people that come, and then I'll be able to kind of earn a little bit more.
Absolutely. You mentioned a word a little bit ago that, there's a lot of musicians, they hate that word, exposure.
Yeah.
But, it is needed, one way or another. You got
Yeah.
to get yourself out there.
Yeah.
And
It's very much needed. And I think the reason that it's become a kind of don't want to talk about exposure is because, I think that there's sometimes it's a thing of some people can feel entitled to like, I should be able to play this show. And and maybe they're right. Maybe they should be able to play that show because they are a great band. But you can be a great band and still maybe not draw enough for them to get you on that venue or to that show, because your exposure in that area, because you don't have enough fans. Which is why you kind of have to play, and locally in like a city, you play around the city, you play at different bars. And then once you've kind of got a city following, you do, a little bit regionally. And then you kind of start, let's say for us, for San Antonio. So you play in San Antonio for a little bit. And once people get your name out there, then you do maybe a San Antonio show 1 month. The next month you go out to Austin and you do an Austin show or two. Then you get people come to Austin. Then you go to Houston maybe the next month. It's a very thing of you do have to grow your fan base over time, because that's what's going to be best for you in the end. That is what's going to help you out. But I do think that there is this thing of maybe bars just are well, the exposure is enough for you guys, and it's sometimes it's not. You got people that are coming from miles. Sometimes the exposure is great. We just did 2 shows over at Daytona, all the way in Florida. We did Daytona Bike Week, and that was a fantastic event. A lot of great people, and the crowd loved us. And there's shows like that where it's yeah, it's worth going and spending the money and doing that to get that kind of exposure. But then it's but if you're playing a hole in the wall and there's not really anybody there, and they're still, or even in the people that came out and you don't get paid, and it's oh well, it's for the exposure. It's but nobody was even there. So it's definitely a thing of it's great, but you also kind of have to be selective in what shows you do, because sometimes they just aren't worth it.
So do you feel that venues and maybe even promoters are taking advantage of bands a lot, using that word?
I think as a starting band, like we said, it's definitely a big thing. You do need to get that exposure, and you do need to put yourself out there. I think once you get past this, beginner level, being in a band and kind of getting out and understanding how it all works, I think maybe there are definitely people out there that will take advantage of a band, or will take advantage of just a situation like that, just because it's oh, well, you're getting the exposure for being on this event. You don't need to get paid for it, and like I said, sometimes it's good. You need that exposure, and it's better to take the exposure and not get paid than to just get paid and nobody's there. But sometimes it's not. and it's not worth it. It's, you feel like crap, but you got to pick yourself up and you got to keep going, and you just learn your lesson. That's kind of how you do it, is you learn from every show something new. Okay, I could have done this. I could have set up faster. I should have probably promoted the show a little bit more. Maybe would have gotten some more people. But I mean,
I,
I think there are definitely people out there that will take advantage of bands that are kind of in that in between stage where they're like, we want to get to here, but we're still kind of at this level. And even if they're in the middle, they'll still kind of get treated like, oh, the exposure's fine. So it's a
yeah.
very complicated situation with all that stuff. So
Oh, it is. Um, you know, you're definitely hitting on a lot of good points right there. It's wow.
you know.
Um, so here's a good one then. How did you get into the music, and what instrument or instruments do you play?
So I got into the music because I kind of mentioned earlier. I got into music because my brother and I's dad. We used to play video games a lot. We still do, but we used to play games all summer. We wouldn't go outside. We wouldn't do anything, and he kind of got sick of it. And one year, I think about 2014, 2015, decided, you know what, you guys are going to do something with your lives instead of just sitting here playing a game. So he got us into music, and I started off playing guitar. My brother played drums. Um, and the rest was history. I just learned how to play guitar, and Brandon learned how to play the drums, and we got better at it. We formed a little band from our hometown. And then over time, the band gradually changed, and some people came in, some people left. I ended up becoming the lead vocalist after 5 years or so of this band. Ended up becoming the lead vocalist, did that for about 2 years. Then COVID hit, and then we played together for maybe a little bit longer. And then about 2020, 2021, band fell apart. And we then ended up kind of hiatusing for a little bit, trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to go about this? Everything just caved in. So then we formed Raven's Banquet, and the rest has been history, man. I mean, we've just been going at it pretty hard. And like I said, I play rhythm, and I'm lead vocalist. So right now we're going through a little bit of a change. So I'm currently holding down the bass and being the vocalist, and our lead guitar player is kind of picking up some of the slack. But we're getting, we're managing. It's going well. So it's going
Nice,
great.
good deal.
We're getting good. I mean, we're still doing great at our shows. We're still putting in 110%. So
Right on. You know, you kind of surprised me though when you mentioned that your dad got tired of you just playing the games all the time. And the one thing that you said about that, doing something with your lives and buy you instruments, that's kind of backwards from most parents, I think, isn't it?
yeah,
That, oh, I'm going to play music. Oh, you're not going to go anywhere then.
yeah. I think
You're going to be stuck here for the.
yeah, I think for him it was more of you're gonna do something other than play the game. You're gonna actually learn something, just to learn something. And I think he watched us learn our instruments, and he watched us, do what we were doing, and he saw something and decided to push it a little bit further, and then a little bit further, and to what it is now, where we are trying to make a career out of this, and we are pushing the band all the time. um, he likes to say, if he didn't believe this was going to go anywhere, he would have stopped paying for it a long time ago. Um, so, he saw something after he'd gotten this. I mean, I think what it was is, he likes to tell the story is he used to see my brother all the time in the truck, um, always like tapping on beat with the songs, and always being on time with songs and whatever we were listening to. And
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it was just because I was loud all the time and I wouldn't shut up. So that's why I got put on like maybe the guitar. And then after a few years, it was, okay, you're going to be the singer now. You're going to learn how to sing, which I never wanted to do. I was so nervous about learning how to sing because I didn't like being in the spotlight like that. I liked playing rhythms and just enjoyed playing the music. And then I ended up learning how to sing. And over time, that took over as, I would have to man up essentially, and now you're the vocalist. You're gonna have to be this, and which at the time I was very, very nervous about, very, very concerned, because I was like, I don't think I'm good enough to do this. But now it's I love doing it. I love being able to sing and connect with people, and I get to see people in the audience get emotional during songs, or just really enjoying the songs, enjoying what I'm singing, and even following along with some of the vocal lines. So it turned it from this thing of so scared and nervous and not really sure if I really wanted to do it, or not want to do it at all, into I'm so glad that I did do it, and I'm glad that I got there. Am I still, anxious about singing in public if it's not on a stage? Of course I am. I don't want to do it. I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah, they're like my dad will pull me aside or something. He's like, yeah, show him. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I got a scratch. I got a scratch in my throat. I'm a little itchy. I haven't warmed up. So
Here, I got a Ricola here for you.
yeah. Oh, hey, thank you. So, but yeah, we have fun. But yeah, it's been a wild ride with all that.
Sounds like it. So thank you for that push for becoming the vocalist, and thank you for the push from your dad.
Yeah. I
Big
thank
shout
him.
out to Big shout out to both of them. What's your dad's name, real quick, so I can share this video to him?
He doesn't have any. He doesn't have any social media. He's not one of those guys. He doesn't like social media, so he kind of stays off of it.
You have to just sit there on the couch and let him watch it sometime. Then
yeah, I'll probably, when I get home, he'll probably want to watch the whole thing. He'll be like, "Can I see the video? I'm gonna critique you on every question you asked, or that was asked of you, and how you answered it."
be gentle, pops. Come on, but hi, pops.
Yeah.
So you should kind of described a little bit of your musical background for us too. Then see, it's like you're metagaming or something.
I just like to talk, so sometimes I get a little bit off topic, and I start going down.
It's also like you've already seen the questions too.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe
a little bit of metagaming. I can feel a little bit of metagaming. So, how do you see your future in music then? Short term, long term, end goal?
I think it's most definitely a long-term thing. We've put in so much time and effort into this, and to trying to make this work and to turn this into a career, that it would be a very hard thing to just try and, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to play anymore. I'm just going to focus on my other stuff. I see it being a long-term thing. I think I'm trying to figure out how to say it. I definitely see it being a long-term thing, but I don't not see how difficult that is. There are hundreds of thousands of artists, that come out, that are already existing, and that are coming out, every year. There's more and more people who are getting into music, more and more people who are making music. So there's a lot to compete with, and the chances now of, you getting picked up are, they're high in some standard, but they're also very, very low because of the amount of people that are out there. On one hand, you could get a TikTok influencer, or somebody can see you and you're skyrocketed. Bam, you're there. And it's just as easy as that. But you could also work at it for years and still never get out of a regional scene, So I think the best way of going about it that I've found is, do I want to be a rock star in the terms of being able to sell at a stadium, or, being able to play and travel around, the United States or the world? Of course I do. I still have that dream. And I think that going about the music as hard as I am, it'll eventually happen. But I also know that is going to take a lot of work, and that even doing all of that work and putting that much effort into it, there is still a big chance that it's not going to happen. But if you only focus on the it's not going to happen, then of course it's not going to happen.
Nope.
So I just don't focus on
Absolutely.
that it's not going to happen. I focus on that it is going to happen because I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to put in the effort to make it happen.
Yes. Positive talk. I like it.
Yeah.
But I also heard that bad W word again, huh? Work. Got to put work
Work.
in.
Work. I
Work.
mean, and
Promoting your shows. You
promoting
mentioned that one earlier.
definitely promoting shows.
Yeah.
You've got to promote shows. I'm a little guilty of that right now. Is we've got a show in the next 2 weeks that I don't have the flyer for yet that I need to promote. And so and some of these other ones, like I was saying, that we just haven't promoted because they're so far out that I just they haven't gotten a flyer yet made, or we're just not pushing them now because we've got other shows going on.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, just to go back onto the it is difficult to make it and you never know what's going to happen. Is
Yeah, go ahead.
when we submitted for Rocklahoma, at the time, the only song that we had out was our song Darkness. It was the only song we had out that was an original. And
Mm-hmm.
we submitted that song as as basically our only criteria. Like, here's the band, and they liked it. And then obviously they liked it enough for us to get out there and actually play on our first try of trying to get out there, And at first and I said this in a previous session, they said no at first, and they said, "Sorry, you're not what we're looking for." And we said, "Thank you. We appreciate the offer and the ability to even try out." And then we got told, well, do you guys use any kind of backing tracks? And we said, no, we don't. We don't do any kind of backing tracks. It's all live. We have stuff in between songs, but that's it. And they said, good. We don't like that stuff on our stage. Don't say anything. We'll keep you posted. And it was left there for several months, for about a month and a half, 2 months. And then would be this week. We got notified about April 1st or 2nd that we were on it, and they gave us all the flyers and information. They're like, post about it on April 5th or April 6th. It was somewhere around that time. So it's been about a year since we found out that we were actually supposed to play Rocklahoma.
Nice. That was on the Doug Burgess stage.
I think they called it
DEB
the
processing.
yeah.
Roadhouse.
I think they called it the Deb stage, like the debut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at least that's
Yeah.
what I called it, is the debut stage. I don't think that's the
Yeah,
name
that's
of
what
it.
everybody that's what
Yeah.
everybody calls it, DEB. DEB
Yeah.
processing. It's Doug
Yeah.
Burgess. Really great guy right there out of Tulsa. He's done a lot of big events, including the Roadhouse stage for multiple years now.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. So
Oh,
yes, definitely congratulations on getting on that stage again.
yeah.
It's a huge honor.
It was a lot of fun. It was a very, very big honor. And I just had so much fun. I was so nervous before we went out on stage, and I was so concerned. I was like, please do not have any voice cracks and just play the guitar properly. That's all I ask for. Everybody else is on their own. If they mess up, that's their own fault. I'll be upset with them later, you know. But I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to make sure I'm doing my part. I'm putting on 110%, and it definitely paid off. And I was so happy to see. For anybody that doesn't know and wasn't a part of Rocklahoma or hasn't been a part of Rocklahoma before, you can get a little app on your phone and download it. It's the Rocklahoma app, and it shows you the list of bands. And we had never even played in Oklahoma before, and it showed a list of about 125 people, or maybe a little bit more, 150 people, who had reserved to come watch us. Like, they wanted to come see the band. And for never playing out there, and that being our first year even there, you know what I mean? Both just as a
Mm-hmm.
person and as a player, that was exciting to see, because that's filling up a bar down here. That's filling up, and people gonna
Yeah,
be selling at a bar, and so we were super excited to see all those faces and to see everybody in the crowd and everybody enjoying it. So it was definitely one of our biggest accomplishments. So
absolutely. So maybe here in a couple more years you can play as the Sunday night headliner.
maybe if fingers crossed, if we can get as big
Rocklahoma.
if we can get as big as Sleep Token got in this as the same amount of time, I think we'll pretty much be good. I think we'll be set.
But yeah, Rocklahoma, you guys need to pick these guys up on the main stage here in a couple years. Give it a couple years. Let them get around the block a time or two. I want to see them on the main stage. Come on, guys. Um, Man, that'd be so amazing.
Yeah.
So, tell us about any other current projects that you may have, or anything that you um, may think about doing in the future. Maybe like a solo career or something.
Um,
Yeah, both or.
like right now we don't really have any other projects. Excuse me. I don't have any other projects. Everybody in the band, and this is another thing of why I think it really works out very well, and I think why we've done so well. This is not me talking crap about anybody else in this situation, or if they don't follow this, it's not like you have to follow what we do to get popular or to get good. But everybody in the band relatively just keeps to this band. We don't go out and do, oh, I've got two other bands or I've got three bands that I play with on the side. Everybody is committed to the one band and making the one band work. And I think in doing that is why we've been able to get so good in such a short amount of time and be on the same page with a lot of the same things, is because we don't have any other commitments like that. We don't have anybody else that we have to commit to. We just have to commit to ourselves and this one project. I've personally not put out like on streaming services, but I've released like a cover or two. I think one or two covers out on like maybe Instagram. I did a cover of "Watch Over You" by Alter Bridge, and then I think I recorded another one, or I did a cover that I recorded live of like maybe "Creep" from SCP.
Mhm.
Um, but I haven't wanted to really do any solo stuff right now. I've thought about maybe doing a collection of covers and maybe putting that out as like a little solo thing if I had the downtime. But right now that I'm committed to this and I don't have any downtime, I don't have to worry about any of that. But there are songs that I've thought like, yeah, those would be great covers. That would be a really good cover if you did it like this. So, but as of right now, no, nobody else really has anything going on. My brother's helping out a good friend of ours in a band called Eden Burning. They got a show coming up here in a little bit, and he's helping to fill in for their drum stuff. But other than that, no, nobody really has been doing anything else. We've just been focusing on Ravens. We
Okay.
do, however, sorry, we do, however, have two new songs that we just recently recorded in January. We got one of them back fully uh, mixed. We liked the mix, so we're just waiting to get that mastered, and we're waiting to hear back on another one here within hopefully the next few weeks, and we're going to start getting those out, and then potentially, we're definitely probably going to put the rest of them out later this year, or just in a little while. We're going to pull them all in, and bam, there's the first album. You know,
We can't
uh,
wait to hear them.
yeah, we've got a lot of other songs. We got these two that we're working on getting finished in the recording. We're just waiting to hear back, and then there's a few more that we've been working on just to pull in with those bunch, so that we have a full album done. So we're
Okay.
getting stuff. We've got a lot of stuff going in the works. What I'm meaning to say.
Can't wait. Um, so, from the perspective of the band, what would you say that your mission is? Then I'll get to the rest of that question later. I'm gonna have to make that separate. So, what would be the band's mission, or
I
like a
would say
mission statement?
I would say the band's mission. The band's mission is just to spread. I mean, I think it's a lot of bands' missions is they want to spread their music because, they were influenced by, certain bands or certain people, and they wanted to express their musical talents and how they felt and their music in general. I know that a lot of um, my inspiration for what my goal is with the band comes a lot from Alter Bridge and from my own uh, going through. events or going through stuff personally, and listening to this band, and this band almost just really just being there, almost like they're right there, their arms open, helping me get through whatever I was going through. Um, and that inspires me to do the same and to put out, similar kind of styles of music, because I think it's great, and I don't think that there's enough of it. I think that there can always be more of it, because it's just such a not I wouldn't say necessarily unique style, but it's just the way that they've gone about it is great. Um, so I think as a whole for the band, it's really just about wanting people to connect and wanting to help them get their feelings out. We want to be that cover for people if they're going through something, or and help them through whatever they're going through.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Because we all need something that to help us get through whatever we're going through, whether it's a great time, like, you're sitting there like buddies in a car driving down the highway, or if you're, maybe sitting in your room just after something, terrible's happened, whatever that may be, a loss of, a family member, a loved one, it doesn't matter what it is, but we like to think of our music as being there for people and connecting with them, on that very personal, deep level. Because I think once you do that, you make fans for life like that. I know that's what happened with me. I've got certain
Hmm.
bands that I listen to a lot because I was going through something, or I had something going on, and their music and the words and the feeling of the song helped me get through it and helped connect with me in such a way that it's like I'm a fan for life.
Oh yeah, Citizen Soldier has been like that for me the last year. So I definitely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's kind of heavy.
yeah,
I
it's a
like
little
it.
heavy. I don't mean to get too
Yeah,
too
no,
heavy
no,
on
you're
everything.
good. You're good. Speaking from the heart.
You know,
So speaking of speaking from the heart, do you write your music from a lyrical aspect, like meaningful, um, or just like writing lyrics to be silly or whatever, or do you write your music to be or your songs to be more musical?
Mm.
Like Tool or somebody like that.
Yeah,
Got a lot of
yeah.
good melodies in it, or do you incorporate both?
I think we try and incorporate both. I know I've never been one to. Most of the time when I'm trying to write, I think when you start writing, sometimes it starts out like just some random mumbo jumbo. You're just kind of writing down like how the vocals go with the song. If that's how the song starts, if let's say you have the entire song written out and it's like, okay, now throw some vocals on it, you're just going to kind of mumbo jumbo your way through it. I think over time, you start connecting the dots and it becomes a deep thing, because now you're writing the lyrics and you're getting an idea in your head, and now you're picturing either your own emotions or some experience that maybe you've heard about, um, and you're getting it out there, like what is it, Jeremy by
Pearl
Pearl
Jam.
Jam. Yeah, I couldn't. Oh my
Yes.
god, I'm a grunge head and I couldn't even remember that. So, but like Jeremy
I'm
from
surprised
Pearl.
I remembered.
Yeah. So Jeremy from Pearl Jam, if I'm correct on the story, is, he read about that, or he heard about this kid in a class and how he was bullied, and he heard about the story, and that's how that song came about. I could be completely off on that, but from what I remember, that's how that song came about. And then there's songs like "Say Hello to Heaven," who it was, that song was written about Andrew Wood of the band Mother Love Bone, because Chris Cornell and him were roommates, and Andrew Wood was a very big influence in the Seattle music scene. In that band, it just was, which is also just another great band. Mother Love Bone was a great band. And he
Yeah.
unfortunately, if I remember correctly, he unfortunately killed himself. And so "Say Hello to Heaven" is a song about him and about, how Chris felt about it. um, so I think it depends. I think a lot for us, though, the musical aspect is we try and have have really good melodies. We try and really think everything out, um, and uh, and make sure it sounds all together and it all sounds like one very big thing, instead of like, oh, this is doing this is doing this, and this is doing this, and then it kind of sounds like a little floppy. We try and have everything kind of tight and sound great together. And even if we are doing our own little individual things, it still all works out in the end. So musically, we're very much in depth on like trying to get those melodies down and making sure they sound great. And then also on the lyrical aspect, we're always, at least for me, I'm always trying to make sure that the lyrics make sense and that they do have a meaning, whether it's my personal experience or me hearing about somebody else's experience, and trying to see it through their eyes. I guess is the way I was trying to put that.
Right. Through glass, perfect example. Looking at you through the glass. This is like not necessarily the drug part of it, but look at the story from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah.
But now, when it comes to your perspective, like your own story, do you have any songs written that's personal about stuff that you've gone through or stuff that you've seen firsthand?
We do. We're right now we're kind of we're writing some that, at least me personally, I've put a lot of thought into. Most of the stuff that I have, had, written about, I had a lot of, like I said, let's go back to the help, is I had a lot of help from West Creek, in learning how to write. Is the first, few songs that we did, I got a lot of help on, the lyrical aspect of things through them. And so they helped me out a lot on how to kind of write about stuff, and how to go about it. Sometimes it's just a thought, or a lyric or a sentence that you start with, like, oh, that was a great sentence, or that was just a great line from a movie, or you know what I mean. But as of recently, we've got a few right now that uh necessarily didn't affect me personally, but affected people that are very close to me personally. I had a very good friend of mine who recently lost their niece, and I was in the middle of writing this somberish kind of sounding song, and the lyrics just kind of started flowing out of me while I was in the middle of writing it. I was playing the guitar, and I stopped, and I just kind of was listening back, and all of a sudden I started just getting a really good idea, and everything started coming together. And so I started writing about it as this perspective from, his niece, about not being ready to leave yet, not being ready to go. Like, I've got more time left in me. It's not my time yet. I'm not going to let it be. Um, and which then also pulled me into, kind of writing about my dad as part of the song, and from his perspective, because, he's been through a lot. I'm not going to say that it's been easy for him, with the way he grew up, and from the stories I've heard, it's been rough. I mean, but right now we're living a great life, and because of all that struggle and because of that determination, he's gotten to be the person who he is today, and to be the caring person that he is today. And so part of that song is dedicated to him as well, and part of it came out as that. Um, so there's some of it is a little bit of my own personal experience, and some of it is just the people around me that are very close to. Um, and I was working on one not too long ago. Not sure if it's going to make it with this batch, but I was working on one. I titled it "Living on the Edge of the World" or something around that. And it was, we had gone to California, and it was, driving along the beach line and seeing all of the houses that are up on the side of the hills, and just looking at these massive mansions and these beautiful homes. And it was like living on the edge of the world. All you see is the sun and the ocean. So it's a
That'd
lot
be
of it.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. For me, it's like, I would never do that, because who's going to live on the side of a mountain when their house can collapse from anything? But it was definitely a very beautiful thing to see. And so, it gave me a lot of inspiration for writing about that. So as of recently, these newer batch, I always say batch, but the newer stuff that we've been working on have really been my personal experience, and the people around me that I'm very close with. A lot, but some of the original material was stuff that I had gotten help with, and learning from their experience, and then also, mixing in a little bit of mine.
Okay. And I told I'd love to hear have a copy of that one you wrote for your niece. I think, with the sounds of
Yeah.
it, that'd be one of my new personal anthems.
Yeah, right now it's still in like really, really early stages. It's probably not going to be put out anytime soon, but that's also
I'll
debatable
wait
on
for
how
it.
fast. That's also debatable on how fast we all, everybody learns it, and then we all get it together and finally, finish it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Hopefully that comes out within, the next little while.
Okay. Not near as long as a Tool album, but
No, not 15 years. Maybe 20. Maybe 20 if I'm lucky. Yeah.
okay. Um, well, that'd make it perfect. That'd make me a little over 60. So yeah, not ready to go. I gotta wait for the song.
I gotta wait for the song. I can't go yet.
Exactly. So this is always a interesting question for everybody. Without going into the details regarding those hot topics such as politics, religion, or any other debatable hot topics, describe the morals of Raven's Banquet and as yourself.
Um, I would say the morals of the band are they're we always try to kind of just convey the emotions that I think everybody goes through. I wouldn't say that there is like a certain moral ground that we stand on, obviously. But I would say that what we try to convey with the music is, like I said earlier, is that we want to connect with people. So it's more of a you're not alone. You know, we've had these experiences, we've felt this way, and we want to be there to let you know that you're not the only one there, you know? And we're in this together. Everybody goes through it. There's a lot of stuff that people don't talk about that everybody deals with, but nobody talks
Yeah,
about it.
absolutely.
Whether that's an addiction or mental health issues. There's a lot that goes on with this world. And there's a lot of different. It's a big world, but it's a small world. You know, in some
Yes.
in some aspects, you are completely different than other people, and then in others, you are exactly like them. Um,
Hmm.
and we try and convey this that some songs you're not going to relate to, other songs that's your song. It's exactly talking about you and your situation. Um, and we just, like I said, we're just trying to be there. And I would say my own morals are kind of the same. Is I try and show this. I want to show that I'm always trying to help. I've always been like that. Because I know. I'm not saying like I've had a terrible life. I'm a musician who's in a great band that's doing very well. I'm not going to complain about any of that. But like I said earlier, everybody goes through struggles. Everybody's doing something, and I know what it's like to not be happy, and I know what it's like to struggle with something, um, regardless of whatever it is. And so I like to think that with the music and with how I convey the band, that it's telling the story of you're not alone, and that we're there. And if you could always rely on the music, or you can always lean on the music if you need anything.
Absolutely. God, I love that. Like that is like I. You got me speechless right now. Like I
Uh,
absolutely love. I don't know. See, I absolutely love that answer. That
yeah, I try and be very honest with a lot of our stuff. So I'm hoping that it comes across like that.
it is. It's coming across just like that. So influences. We all have influences. Um, who are your influences, both as a musician and as an individual, besides your
Um,
dad?
yeah, besides my dad. Uh, my biggest influence, if you ask anybody in the band or have seen any other kind of media about me whenever I get asked this question, is my biggest influence has so far been Alter Bridge. I just think they're an incredibly talented band that do not get enough credit for what they do. They put on an incredible performance. They have amazing songs that have been so well written out and so well thought out. It's just
Yes.
it's insane to me. Um, I was very heavily influenced by them when I was younger. I was very heavily influenced by the grunge scene. I
Hmm.
remember some of the first like the first two songs that I can ever remember listening to were Them Bones and then oh God, and Spoon Man. Like some of the very
Okay.
first songs I remember ever listening to.
Soundgarden.
Yeah, Soundgarden. So I
Yes.
grew up on this rock grunge scene, and then it slowly turned into metal, as I think it does with most people who get deep into it. Um, and the latest that it's been is like Gojira. I think it's probably the hardest I've gotten into any kind of metal. Um, but Alter Bridge is definitely one of them. Creed, another great band. I thought that they have some amazing songs. Another band that's like just did really, really well, and I'm so glad that they got back together again and went on tour because I was getting really into them, and I was so like depressed at the fact that I was like they're never, unfortunately Scott had all of his issues at the time, and I'm not going to be able to see him live. The minute they announced everything, and like I saw like they didn't even announce anything yet. I think what it was is I was on Instagram scrolling, and like I scrolled past a post where it said Creed changes banner on Instagram. Something's
What?
coming. And I was like, what? And so I looked at it, they're changing their banners and stuff, and I freaked out. And so like their first part of their stuff came out and they were doing the summer of '99 tour or cruise. And I was like, damn, I was hoping they'd go on tour. And then I saw that they were going to go on tour and they're coming to San Antonio, and I bought tickets and we went to go see them, and they just put on an amazing performance. I'm talking, it was insane. The pyrotechnics, the lighting, just Scott in general was in just such great shape. I mean, he was doing things that I wish I could do as a singer. I was like, oh, I gotta get. He's older than me, and he's doing so much better. I need to get my stuff together. Um,
Practice.
I did practice. I got to
Mm-hmm.
work out. Um, but no, but I would say bands like that, that not new metal, but that early 2000s, the early 2000s music that came out was really inspirational for me. The I would say for Johnny and Brandon, Johnny was very influenced by like Avenged Sevenfold, Megadeth. He's very, very influenced by like Dream Theater. So what Alter Bridge means to me is what Dream Theater means to him. He's a very big John Petrucci fan who up until recently, I just recently got into listening to some of their stuff, and I really like the band too. I just went and saw them with my brother and with Johnny over here in San Antonio. We just saw them come through. It was a great concert. Loved it.
My, I'm jealous.
So
Nice.
it was a good concert. I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and I had a great time. Um, my brother, right now it's Sleep Token. He's very big into that band, and they've gotten a hold of him on that. But he used to be really big into like Dragon Force. Was when he was
Yeah.
younger. He was really big into Dragon Force, and he's also really big into Dream Theater as well, and some other bands. I can't remember the name of it. He's got a band that he really likes. I just cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. If I think about it at some point, I'll say it. But
Well, like I gotta on that note, then I gotta bring that up. I mentioned that interview I was hearing earlier. Creed. It
Creed.
was there's this guy Nick Delacruz interviewing the sound tech for Creed, and that's the sound engineer is the one who brought up the social media person. So whoever was in that audience, one of those nights, had a lot bigger following than Creed.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. It's weird to think about, though. It's weird to think about how there are people that are just doing dances on TikTok that are more famous than the most influential music that's come out in the last 30 years. You
Yeah.
know, and it's like because this person danced on TikTok and looked cute that they got more popular. And it's not, and I'm not the biggest fan of TikTok. I'm not the biggest fan. I think that in some ways it was good. It's good for some people, and people have made careers
Hmm.
off it, which is wonderful, and they've been able to do stuff. But on certain things, it's also been really bad because now our attention spans have gotten so short. If you don't catch them within the first 2 seconds of a video being up, if it's not interesting, they're going to swipe on you. They don't care. That's a
Hmm.
content thing, um, which is another slight issue with the music industry in general. It's not really based upon how much talent you have. I think with Sleep Token and a lot of the rock scene, it is. I think that there is a thing of just it's still heavily based on, well, you have to be talented, but you also have to be popular. If you're not popular, then nobody cares. That's the biggest problem I think with this game is if you can be a great band with with a great following in terms of people coming to your shows, but if your social media aspect isn't doing great or your social media doesn't have enough followers, you'll just get completely overlooked. And so I think that's one of the hardest things right now is trying to just you can build a following, but can you build a following on social media? Because that's all that matters. You know?
On the flip side of that, let me ask you this one. How about the difference between the followers and the fans? Because if you had, let's just say, 1 million followers across all your platforms, could you fill the BOK Center there in Tulsa or the Staples Center, Madison
I
Square
mean,
Gardens?
it would also depend on like uh really kind of where they're located. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There are tools now where you can see where most of the people that are streaming your music are coming from,
Yep.
and so you can target an audience and like I want to push my music here or I want to push my music there, to try and gain a bigger fan base. We definitely when we first started out we pushed a little bit to through like the meta ads and stuff like that you can do through Facebook.
Hmm.
We we pushed to do the San Antonio area and then maybe just a little bit outside of that. And then when we started really pushing songs and getting songs out there, it was let's target Germany or let's target the United Kingdom. Not because the United States was bad, but because the the scene outside of the United States is still heavily liking the kind of music that we do. So our music is popular and does really well in other countries, like I said, like Germany and UK and Mexico and a lot of
Nice.
South America. Recently it's been doing really well, but the United States might not be as popular as what's been going on down there, but we're growing a fan base down there. Now are we going to be traveling to South America anytime soon? That's up for debate. But we're it just it's just it kind of depends on what's going on with everything.
Absolutely.
Fans are just it's I mean you never take fans for granted. They will make you or they will break you because they're your biggest critics. If you're
Yep.
having a terrible show, they're going to let you know you're having a terrible show, and that can ruin you. Or
Hmm.
if you put on the greatest show of your life and they completely loved it, they'll talk about it and then you'll get more people to come to your show. So
Absolutely.
I think fans are fans are always going to be, I think, to the band the most important people in the for them. The fans are what make the
Hmm.
band. It's a
Yes.
relationship. Um, I think, but for the industry as a whole, the business side of everything, fans matter, but your social media and your platform are what matter just as much, if not more. Because that's where they're going to be able to push you. That's where they're going to be able to. It's no longer about putting out flyers and stapling them to telephone poles or putting them or pinning them up in places. It's about digital content or horizontal video or stuff like that because that's what gets
Share,
people's attention.
share,
You know.
share, share, share. Yeah.
So and that's why it's very important post all the time, and it can be difficult. I know I get frustrated with it all the time because it's not my favorite thing to do, but I also know that if I don't push the band, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get anywhere. It's just going to fizzle out. So I'm always trying to push the band and always trying to get all that stuff to work. So not only do we have great fans, but we have people that are following us, which is also helping to just build the band even more on a business level of everything.
Right. Because the more followers you have, the more of a chance you have of actually getting your music out there,
Yeah,
getting your
because
message
you
out
get
there.
noticed. Yeah, you get noticed. People notice it.
hmm So when it comes to the social media stuff, do you think that could be bad for the older generation? Like, because where I'm at, I grew up without cell phones. We had that 20-foot long phone cord attached to the wall, not to tell my age or anything. So graduating high school, then here comes MySpace and then all that. So, I've learned how to incorporate it, but those, 10, 20 years past me, do you think that could be bad for their careers? Not being in the being in social media. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want it.
I think a lot of the bigger bands that have already made a name for themselves and are of that kind of or of that generation, I guess is the way to put it. They have people that do all that social media and that marketing and that stuff for them. And I think with anything else, because this business is always growing and there's always new techniques and there's always new stuff, they've also learned how to incorporate it and to use it as a tool. Um, and I think for the older bands that are still going, like Foreigner, obviously Dream Theater's. For me, I didn't even realize how long that band has been around until I saw it. Like, oh, it's their 50th anniversary tour. I was like, what? So there are bands that
Yeah.
are have been out there and doing this for a very, very long time that I think have been able to push because of their name and because of who they are. Their social media just grows really quickly because people find them pretty easily, and they're consistently pushing, and they have a lot of backing to them. They're able to do all of that. So I think a lot of older generation bands, I don't think it's too much of an issue, only because I think that they've got it pretty much handled. There are people that's their job, is to run their accounts to a degree, is to run their accounts and make sure that everything stays up to date and keeps growing, to gain more fans, to gain more support. So I'm not super worried about older generation bands like that. The newer generation, I mean, for me, and I grew up just when phones were becoming a really big thing. I just, as of April 1st, turned 21. So
Happy late birthday.
thank you. But I grew up with the Motorola slide phone, or a flip phone. Actually, I remember my parents having a flip phone, and then I got the Motorola slide that had the little keypad on it, built into the
hmm
phone. So I know some people of
hmm
my generation have no idea what I'm talking about. I grew up from that, and then it became, the smartphone. Then you had a phone that had a screen that you could swipe on. All of a sudden, you can play games on the phone. Now you have social media. Uh, and I don't think I really got to social media and stuff until junior high, until I was in about sixth or seventh grade. I didn't really get into the social media thing until then. People were on Snapchat and stuff, and I just didn't get it. I was like, okay. It wasn't a big deal to me, and it still isn't a big deal to me. I could go without posting personally for a while. It's not a big factor in my life. It doesn't make me not sleep at night. Like, oh my god, I didn't post on my personal. Oh my god, what are my fans gonna think? Are they gonna think I'm dead? You know what I mean? And there are people that think that.
hmm
So I think for the newer generation, the phone and social media thing has become, in some ways, great because people can make friends. They can make long distance relationships and make friends around the world, or maybe they found somebody that lives in the same town as them. You never know. I think it's great
hmm
in some aspects, but there's always the thing of, like, but people bully, people get upset. It's, or, especially with the way that social media works is that it grabs you and pulls you in. Next thing you know, you spent 3 hours on your phone just scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. I'm guilty of it. I'll say it. I'm
Hmm.
guilty of it.
Yeah.
So in some aspects, it's a great thing. In other aspects, it's a bad thing. Um, but it's like I said, it's a tool in its own right, especially with this business. So it really just depends on how you use it.
Yes. So things like, where I have two different pages, I have Saint Anger Productions and I have my personal page. Unless you keep your personal page on like extreme lockdown and very limited friends and family, how important do you think it is? Like, we mentioned earlier with the social media thing of you say something wrong and it's out all over by morning.
Yeah.
The difference between the business page and the personal page. Do you think like somebody as myself, do you think I need to watch what I say on my personal page? Because
I
it
think
may.
it's one of those things where it's really about the person and really what you want to do. I think there is a side of social media where they don't really care what you say. They just like you because they think you're funny or because they like to hear what you like to say.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's also another side of social media that will completely slander you and you leak your IP address and where you live and where you work. Um,
Mhm.
so it's a very fine line. So for me, I don't really the things I find funny. I don't post on my page because I know that not everybody else finds them funny, and um, it might be misconstrued because it's like, oh, it's a joke, but then some people don't take that as a joke. And I think what it is there's this thing, especially with my generation, of it isn't comfortable to me, so it shouldn't be out there. And that's not how I really view everything is, I know I find this funny. You don't find it funny. I'm sorry you don't find it funny, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about it or I'm not going to say it.
Mhm.
Um, you can just not find it funny.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are things that this person does that I don't really like or that I'm like, it's all right. It's not fun for me, but just because I don't like it or it's not fun for me doesn't mean I'm going to just say, well, you should be doing that or you should be saying this.
Yep.
Obviously, of course, there are things that shouldn't be said and there are things that shouldn't be done, which I don't feel like I need to name, but there are limits and lines that we shouldn't cross as people because it's just you start getting into hate and violence,
Mhm.
which I
Yep.
will never, which I will not promote.
Mm-mm.
Because there's no need to do it. Because why? There's
No, there's
already
not.
enough of it. There's already enough of it in the world. That's what
Yeah.
Twitter's for. And so that's
Yeah.
what Twitter's for.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I try and kind of keep my stuff pretty much down. I especially I think my thing is I just kind of like sharing some life experiences. I like telling stories if depending on what the story is about and if it's appropriate, I guess is the way to put it. I'm more of a people person anyway. So it's like I'd rather tell a story in person than over the internet because I know the people that I'm telling it to will find it funny and they will find it enjoyable versus like me just saying it out there and somebody's like, well, that's awful. Why would you say that? That's so bad. And it's just then it becomes a whole issue. So for
Yeah.
me, it's this, it's really debatable on who you are. If you feel comfortable and you feel like you don't really care what you say and you don't mind any backlash like that, um, and just know what you're getting into, then be my guest and do whatever you want. That's your choice, But
Exactly. Just use
you
your
know,
head.
yeah, just use your head. Just think about what you're putting out there and make sure that what you're putting out there isn't going to cause somebody to do something that they shouldn't be doing or to
Yeah.
or to be a way that they shouldn't be. Um,
There's that, and then make sure that whatever you do does not cause ripples for others around you. Like for you, make sure you don't cause ripples for Raven's Banquet, or for me,
yeah,
make sure I don't cause ripples within St. Anger Productions or, whatever.
Yeah. And so that's
Look
another
what
thing.
happens to companies like Budweiser that, look, not going into all that, but look what happened with them. They, you know, the hatred and stuff that you see all throughout all this, oh, I support, this political person, I support, this country or,
Yeah, it's
and,
I don't, I think you're a brand. You're not, I mean, you can keep that stuff to yourself, but you're a brand that has a bunch of people working for you. Unless
mm-hmm,
everybody that's working for you is supporting the same person, I don't see why you should be like, oh yeah, I support this, so you should support this because you're the people that support my brand.
yep,
It's I don't I've never really understood it. I've in my personally, I've never understood why brands have to go, oh yeah, I'm supporting, this person because of their stuff. And because when it's really, if you look down at everything, it's, oh, I support this person because they paid me to support them, which is the underlying thing. And they don't care. They just got a bunch of money
mm-mm.
or were paid off or got something
Free
out of
product.
saying or free product, or they got something out of saying that they support this, even if they don't, you know but
Mm-hmm.
it just creates division and stuff that just doesn't need to be made. It can just be completely ignored. It's like nobody cares. I don't care if my
Exactly.
chip I don't care if my chips support some stupid cause, like let's change the name of like green to red or some stupid stuff like that. Like, I don't care. It's like it makes no sense. It's just
Yeah,
stuff
it doesn't.
like political things like that are just it's ridiculous to have any of that in your brands. So
Mhm. Yeah, and especially on the personal level too, because they don't. You represent
yeah,
that other, the other side. You
yeah.
know,
I
just
think
because it's on your personal page, we see it too often. The personal page, personal account says something, does something in it. Everybody goes after the
but
main
yeah, the
event.
whole
The
it's like
band,
I don't think
whatever.
I've seen that, and I don't think that that's right either. It's you know what is it is I think it was Breaking Benjamin. I saw this is because I was looking into it because I was listening to one of their songs. I wanted to know, is are they a Christian band? and and obviously and they say that they're not, and and I don't think that they try and act like it, but it has been acknowledged that the singer is heavily Christian and he has those beliefs, so that's going to end up in the music a little bit. Now, are they going to say that that's what they write about and that they're writing about God? No, because that's not what they're writing about. That's just his personal experience and his personal beliefs. Now, if he goes out and says that he's going to church and does all this other stuff, that's his own personal stuff. Is he bringing that into the band and completely ruining that? No, that's his own beliefs. That's his own person. He can still be that guy to himself and then be this rock star who just plays this great music, and it doesn't have to necessarily be, not everything has to be related to something else. I can go and do
Mm-mm.
this one thing and still come out here and play music. It's just I don't think
Absolutely.
attacking somebody's personal page because of their person. I don't feel like attacking somebody, like whatever they're working on, just because they believe something else. It just doesn't make sense. It's just there's no reason
It,
for it.
it 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 does not make sense. So more dangers of social media.
Yeah,
It we can't say it enough. It can be very beneficial. It can be very detrimental.
yeah. So
Yeah. So you said you're sitting in a studio tonight, right?
mhm.
So I'll leave out one of those then. Apparently, you know what you're looking for in a studio. Oh, so there's a list of questions when it comes to managers, producers, and promoters. What do you look for in those people? If you're
um,
gonna hire a promoter or hire a producer.
honesty, which is hard. um, like we said earlier, there are people that will take advantage of bands and they will take advantage of stuff. And I've seen it and we've experienced it firsthand. Um, but honesty is one of the very big things with whoever we're working with or whoever we're looking into working with. Um, they don't make promises, but they try and deliver the best that they can possibly deliver with whatever situation it is. So honesty for us is the biggest key thing whenever we're working with anybody, and whenever we're or with whomever we're just looking into.
So then how about recording studios? I'll go ahead and ask that one.
So recording studios, what we're looking for is also honesty. Because I mean, some people will just take you into a recording studio just to record you and get the money out of it,
Mhm.
But when looking into a recording studio, what you're looking for is, I would say you want to do your own, um, you want to do your own research, and you want to make sure that the people that you're going with to record with, have a similar style of music that they've recorded in the past or previously, and worked with people that have a similar style of music. Because if you're going for this, let's say for us, we're going for this Alter Bridge, Tool, Dream Theater vibe, but we go and record with somebody who works with country stars. It's like you wouldn't do
Mhm.
that because that doesn't make any sense, because you're just wasting your money on a recording with somebody that doesn't do your style of music. So they might not know exactly what you're looking for. So with recording, you want to look for somebody that has an understanding of what you're looking for, and is um, able to actually make that happen.
So what about the technology in a recording studio? Do you look into that or?
Technology has never been one of my. I don't really pay attention to that in the studio. If they have great technology, then great. I personally haven't really thought about it. It's probably not a bad thing to think about when you're looking into a recording studio.
I mean, I still got that Sony boombox come over to my music room, and
Yeah, I mean, I think it does
this
matter.
wooden
It does.
shed, and
Yeah, it does matter because you do want a clean recording. You want it to sound great. And because you're obviously, like I said earlier, you're competing with hundreds of thousands of people that are already musicians. So you're wanting to put out the best possible thing that you can put out. So for me, even though I haven't really thought about it until now, I would say that it does matter about uh, you know what equipment this person has to record you with, because if they don't have the right equipment, then you could do a fantastic job with actually playing and recording, but the sound might not be there because it wasn't the cleanest quality, or wasn't recorded in the best situation.
yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that as a sound tech.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. That's kind of why I asked that one. Um, so how about like track record? You listen to the other recordings of what they've done before
Yeah.
for like other
Like so
artists.
for us, we started working with this with the guy Ramon of Dark Tone Audio out in Houston. And we got together with him from our friends over in West Creek, because they had been working with him, and that's where they got their songs done. And we liked their sound, and it was similar to what we had already been doing. And they told us, yeah, this guy does that kind of music. And so we went with him, and the songs that have been recorded, other than Darkness we recorded with some of the guys in West Creek. But everything else was recorded with him, and they came out great, and I think that it shows the band off very well. um, and and we've been very happy with how everything turned out and how everything sounds. It's why we're going back. It's why we're still working with them. So
Okay, and you share their stuff like their Facebook page and stuff like that.
so I haven't
Do you help promote them?
I haven't promoted them. Well, usually when I've made a few posts in the past where I have promoted, like, yeah, we're over here at Dark Tone Audio. I haven't recently put anything out about the recordings, because we've been kind of until they're ready to be fully pushed out there and like, okay, that's going to come out soon. I kind of leave them and I wait, but I do have footage of being there and doing the recordings and actually stuff and behind the scenes footage of the recordings. I usually just wait to post any of that stuff until the songs are going to be coming out, and then you can show off some of that stuff and show off
Oh,
some of
that's
the behind
cool.
the scenes footage. So, but
I'm a tech nerd. I love that.
yeah, I have given him a few shout outs on like on interviews and stuff like that, you know.
Like this.
Yeah,
Perfect.
like that. Shout out to
Perfect.
Ramon at Dark Tone Audio.
Okay. So we'll have to be sure to share that with them later. That way they can see, hey, there's another shout out for you.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're in the Houston area, you need to record. Who are they again? So they'll know.
Ramon, yeah, it's Ramon with Dark Tone Audio.
There you go, guys. If you're ever in Houston, go hit them up. So, what are you looking for in a venue?
A good sound system, so a very good PA system, and I would say honestly, the two things I look for in a venue are like availability. Like I said, I don't want not paying $20 to park and then $20 to get in. So parking obviously for people so that they can get in without having to pay for extra parking. A great for musically, just a great sound system and a good sound engineer. Because that is what will also make or break a show is if you piss off the sound guy or if you have a good or bad sound guy. Is I know that we've done shows where I've been cool with the sound guy and the sound guy was just pissed off, and so we didn't have a great show. And it's like it's not our fault. It was just not a good night for him, so he took it out on us. Um, I've also had certain shows where we were cool with the sound guy and we had a great show and they gave us our sound perfectly. Um, just recently we did a show with Mini Kiss over at Come and Take It Live in Austin, and was a little frustrated because we didn't get we thought we were going to get a sound check at the very beginning of like before anybody got there. We ended up not getting it until like right before we went on. Um, but we had an amazing show. Everything sounded great. Vocals were good. Guitars were good. The drums sounded amazing. And I went and listened back to the footage and I was like, man, we were so tight that night. And just everything about it sounded great. And we had a
You
great
don't need
crowd.
sound checks.
Yeah. So, but it's so I would say that's like for a musician standpoint, those are like the two biggest things are, is the PA good and can run everything that you have? And do you have a sound guy that knows what he's doing and that you can work with? That's another. It's just a really big thing because obviously they're having to do the sound for you on stage. You're not able to mess with it while you're playing, so you want to make sure that you get it set up and ready to go, and so that when you get up there, you're not having to focus on making sure his job's right. You can just focus on making sure your job's right.
Yep. Absolutely. I was thinking about asking something. Oh, sound man having a bad night. Do what as a sound technician? Don't get too stoned before you do a show.
Yeah.
God, that was a horrible night. It was still fun. It was still a success. God.
No, I
Um,
had I've got some stories. We have a guy who we take for sound, and he's been doing sound for the band for a little bit now. Whenever we get the chance to get him, and he came to a show one night, and he just didn't see like he seemed a little off, and I was like, okay, but we still had good sound, but I found out later that he had like eaten some mushrooms before we went on, and he said to like, I think he said it to like our dad or somebody else that was there. Don't worry, brother. The sound's gonna be amazing tonight. And it was great sound. It was great sound. Had I known he was high on mushrooms, I would have been freaking out about if that show was gonna be good or not, because it was an important show. But it was so funny and it was so great. And I laugh about it because I think about it and I'm like, oh, that was such good times.
wow. That could have been bad.
That could have been bad, but he just like a professional. You're gonna be fine. I got you.
God. I thought mine was bad. Much. Wow.
No, we have
Yeah.
had like stone sound guys before that are just like, dude, and yeah, it's like other people are going up there and telling them, okay, turn this up, turn this down, turn this up, lower this. You
I'm a
know,
sound tech. Watch out.
uh,
You go sit down and drink some water.
get your stuff back together for the next man. I'll take over. It's fine.
I would if they would let me.
They let me.
But then again, I'm the sound tech that always likes to have fun with the bands too. It's like I have one friend that I was always messing with him. He would start talking during band practice, and I'd hit that mute button. He'd look at me like, give me that look, so I'd
Yeah,
unmute it.
no, we were.
He'd start talking again.
Yeah, no, we were when we were in Florida. I think it was the second day we were in Florida. It was the last day we were going to do a show, and we got up on stage and they're checking the drums. All of a sudden, I'm hearing this squeaky, like squeak toy coming out of the monitors. And it's just out of the monitors. It's only on stage. It's just before we're about to go on. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm like looking, and I look out at the very front, like way out there where the sound person is. And he's got this little rubber ducky and a microphone. He's just doing this into the microphone, messing with the other sound guy on the stage. And I was laughing because I was like, that's the first time I'd seen like somebody doing that, and it just caught me off guard because I'm about ready to go on stage and I'm trying to make sure I'm calm, collected, and I'm ready to go. My headspace is there. And all of a sudden, I hear
Not rolling on the floor laughing.
so it was just really funny.
I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was so fun. It was only funny because nobody else in the audience could hear it. It was just coming from the monitors. So it was only coming from anything on stage. And I think it was one monitor at a time. So it'd be coming from the back one over here by the drums. All of a sudden it's up at the front one in front of me. And it's over to my left all the way by Johnny. It was moving around.
Immersive audio.
Yeah, it was immersive audio. Yeah. It's like I had a pair of surround sound headphones on me. I was like, where's it coming from?
Man. I have to remember that for next time. Thank you. So they're gonna hate you for this one now. No. All the other sound techs will love you though. Sorry, bands. So if you could play any one show with any artist and at any venue, even if it is not obtainable, with who and where would it be?
That's a very debatable question, depending on which member you ask. Um, I would
We'll also
say,
go you personal.
I would say personally, I don't think that the crowd would like us very much. Maybe. I don't think so, but I don't think the crowd would like us very much. But because of the size of the crowd is why I would do this. I would probably choose to play with Alter Bridge at I don't remember the exact name of the event, but it was when Metallica played at the fall of the Soviet Union in that massive like
The one there in Moscow.
million. Yeah,
Yes.
is I would probably want to
Bro.
play that event just for the size of the crowd and just to experience that many people being there at one point. I think playing with Alter Bridge and just with their powerhouse of a set and doing that with them, I think that would probably be like the most unobtainable, but like wish I could thing. Because if I'm correct, it could have been changed recently, but if I'm right, that is like one of, if not the was one of the most attended concerts in history. It's
That's
like the
what I've
number
seen.
one, the most amount of people at a concert was the Metallica concert up in Moscow. Or
Yeah. And could you imagine though, Alter Bridge featuring Chase on guitars and guest vocals in front of
I
a million
probably
people?
couldn't live up to playing with them. I think with my band like opening up, I think I could do that. But trying to play the guitar in their band, I don't know if I could do that. I'd probably fail. I could probably do some
Now
guest
you,
backup vocals. I could probably do some backup vocals. We do a few of their songs. We have worked on them.
Mhm.
And up until recently, we were playing Metalingus, and I was singing that one. So I would probably try and do like that, or maybe another one if I could.
Okay. Is that the one you'd want to do with a band, or
Yeah, I
you
would.
think the band might want to do something different?
I think I would try and
Between
do like.
Sevenfold and
I think the band. I don't know. I think Johnny would probably want to do something with Dream Theater. He'd want to play a concert with Dream Theater. I don't really think it would care where. Um, it just as long as he got to play with
Moscow.
them. Yeah, Moscow. I think Brandon would probably right now want to play a show with like Sleep Token. And just like Johnny, I don't think he would really care where, as long as he just got the opportunity to be in the same lineup with them in terms of like our band and then them, or our band, somebody else, and then them. So I think for the two of them, it doesn't really matter where, and but just the matter of who they get to play with and who they get to be, who they get to share a stage alongside with.
So hear me out on this one then. Sleep Token opening up for um I just went blank.
Alter Bridge?
Band, yes, Alter Bridge. I keep wanting to say never mind. Yeah, so Alter Bridge, Sleep Token, Alter Bridge, and then Dream Theater, followed by, you've already mentioned them, Dragon Force or Avenged Sevenfold.
No.
Swap them out, either one. Closing out the night in Moscow, Raven's Banquet.
I feel like everyone would probably leave. I feel like they'd get through like the first few, like everybody, they'd get up to Avenged Sevenfold. That would be the last band, and then it's like this band that nobody's heard of comes out on stage. They're like, "Yeah, I gotta get home. I'm done. I'm tired. I got work in the morning." So I think that would probably be the. I think everybody would leave, but hopefully people would stay. That would
I
be
don't know.
that'd be a dream.
They'd have to. I mean, if you're headlining that kind of show, they would have to know who you are.
Yeah. I guess you got a point there. I guess you got a point. So I would, yeah, I would probably be uh, scared out of my mind to do a show of that size. I would thoroughly love it afterwards, but it would be so scared of something going wrong because it's going wrong in front of a million people. So it's like, pray, hope and prayers.
Right?
Yeah, just sitting up there.
Oh, so we got Jared Rivet, um, the last band that I'm not trying to butcher their name. He said, "Yo, what's up?" So if Jared's still here to listen, they passed some questions on to ask you guys. They said, "What do you specify as your sound?"
Mm.
And then, "Do you guys want to play a show together?"
So, um, it's such a hard thing to specify what a sound, like what our sound is, because we've been together for, I mean, not long enough to really go, yeah, we're this. We do have our own little sound. I don't know what I would call it. I would call it like I wouldn't say it's metal. I wouldn't say it's like light rock. We have songs that are very emotional. We have songs that are fast and fast paced, like Biter that just came out. Very fast paced, kind of upbeat. We have In the Dark, which is super heavy and like in your face. Um, so it's kind of a thing where it's like I don't really know where to put the band. I would just say
It's a banquet.
it's a banquet. It's just there's so much that you could have. There's so much to choose from. So I would say
Yeah.
we're just a hard rock band. Um, that is, we've got a sound, but we're not into like a certain genre, I guess is what to put it. Like I just don't have a genre name yet. I would just say we're a hard rock band or a heavy rock band, you know?
Do you feel that you might sound a little bit like any other band, or you're just Ravens Banquet and that's it?
I think we're still trying to get to not that we're trying to be any other kind of band. But combining all the influences that we have, I think there are still elements that we haven't reached yet. That with some of this,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, some of this newer stuff, or some of the stuff that we're working on, we're trying to incorporate a little bit more of. Um, so that's kind of how I would put it. Is we're still incorporating things into the band, so it's not like a set. Uh, we're trying to be somebody like this, but we just like little elements here and there and are trying to incorporate and show those off a little bit more in our music, and that's kind of what we're working on right now.
So still simmering on the back burner. Dinner's not ready yet.
Yeah, dinner's not ready yet. Dinner's still going. We're still making there's the appetizers are coming out. All right. Appetizers are coming out. We got mozzarella sticks, we got some garlic bread. I'm still, but the steak dinner is not there yet. But it's getting close.
That's okay, as long as I can get some appetizers here and there. I'll wait for that steak dinner until that 20 years. Oh, so do y'all want to play a show together?
And this is with who again?
Canis, like, okay, I can't, like, Gahenna. I don't remember how they pronounce that.
Hmm. I'd have to. I mean, we're open to playing with bands. We like to. I think one thing that we do like to look for in bands that we're looking to work with. We look for kind of a similar style. Because it's one of those connection things. It's one of those exposure things where you have a band of similar styles. The obviously the audience and the fans of one band will kind of cross because they have similar styles. Like, oh, I like these aspects of this band, but this band also has these great aspects. So I think for us, it's a thing about kind of listening to a band and then seeing um, how they sound and are they going to work with what we're doing in terms of like if we were on a set together, is it going to sound right, because we've been on
Hmm.
sets where or done sets where we're playing for like a punk rock band and then it's us and then it's a death metal band just where it's you all screamo, you can't understand a single word that's being said, which is not the typical show you'd want to be on, not because it's just bad but because it's hard to make a fan of this when you've got three different styles going along at the same time. Now do all bands have to sound the same? No, they don't have to sound the same. But if they have a similar feel and a similar kind of style, but each have their own little unique traits, I think that's what makes a good lineup, in terms of a show. So it just really depends on how they sound and kind of what their show is like.
Hey, Jared, you hear that? Come on, get them your music. They want to hear your music.
Send it to the
So,
Instagram. Send it to the band's Instagram. Like the band's Facebook page doesn't always get notifications, so I'm constantly having to look always like every few days or so just to like make sure I got a notification or I got a message or anything. So if you send any kind of media or want to get in touch with us, we'll do email, but just hit us up on Instagram, Ravens Banquet. Shameless plug.
hey, no shame, no shame here.
No shame.
Um, so speaking of plugs, and I want to do this. You definitely have to check out Marshall Rock Radio. Um, I know we were talking about it before we got started on the live. With the fans that you've already been gathering from all over, check out Marshall Rock Radio. Get with them. In fact, my Facebook group, Saint Anger Promotions, there's a or maybe it was my Facebook page, one of the two. There was a post that was shared on there a couple of days ago that it actually shows how you email and what to submit to Jamie to get your music played,
Yeah. So I'll have
and
to check
she
them out.
plays definitely. And then be sure to share the Facebook stuff with your fans. That way, they can have a chance to listen to some other local bands from literally all over.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to get into more bands. Like we just pulled for that May 30th show, a band that we recently came across from Corpus. Their name is Identity Crisis. We recently came across them, and we played a show with them once, and I thought they put on a really good performance, and I was like, this is a band that I can tell put in the work, you know what I mean? Um and so we're doing a show with them, and then we got some of our friends from like Live in Dark Days and West Creek, who I think are going to be doing the show as well with us. So we're still getting it all put together, but we should have a flyer out for all of that. So hopefully within the next week. It was supposed to be last week,
Well, as
but
soon as
you know,
it happens, as soon as I see one there, I'll get it shared for you.
yeah. So we're going to definitely be sharing it on a lot of different pages. So we always like to tag everybody
Hell
and
yeah,
invite them as collaborators if possible. So that way, everybody can get each other's followers and all that stuff.
absolutely. About networking,
Mm-hmm.
because just because you have your certain amount of followers, this other band over here, they're not going to have the same followers as you.
No.
So that's where you guys got to be able to work together. Things like this, work together to pick up each other's followers to pass along to the next person too.
Yeah, and it's a very big. It's very big. It's got to be a very big. It's got to be a community kind of thing, and I think that in some aspects, at least down here, I've talked about it before. Is in some aspects down here that isn't a thing. Everybody's kind of out for themselves, and um, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult when trying to work with anybody. Because there's a lot of people that it's like you go to a show, they'll go to the show, they'll play their set, and then they'll leave. They won't go and support the other bands that are on that set. And like, don't get me wrong, I get it if you got a job, if you got to leave, or you've got any kind of thing going on. But if you got nothing else to
Right.
do and you're just leaving because you want to get home just to get home, it's like think about the other
I played
bands.
my
You know
gig.
what I
I'm
mean?
gone.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say I've been guilty of that when I was younger. That's what we did is we played shows and we left. But after experiencing that on a numerous amount of times
Firsthand.
firsthand, you go,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, like we want people that are going to stay and support the show. Like we are not like we
Yeah.
try and look for people like, okay, are they going to stay and support us the way we will stay and support them from now on? And we try and really work on that. Like Mini Kiss, we just did 2 shows with them, and tried to stay most of the night, if not the entire night. To enjoy them
Mm-hmm.
and have anybody that was there to see us also continue to watch them. You know.
Yeah. Um, but then it brought up earlier, which we can incorporate it here again. Promote your show. That way, it's not just the bands watching each other. You actually have people that's paid to come watch you guys. Promote
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah. You have to promote the show. If you don't promote the show, it's one of those things where it goes back to the whole money thing. Don't ask for a handout and don't expect anything if you didn't promote the show and try and get people to your show. Because if I was a bar owner
Mm-hmm.
and I saw a band that didn't promote a show and didn't put in any effort, but they're like, "Hey, can I get $400 at the end of the night?" Why? No, you didn't do anything to get anybody here. And all of the money I made was off of the beer sales, which ends up going to house
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So it's definitely
Yeah, it's
promote
all
your
the
show.
normals I see every weekend.
Yeah, push your show, push your stuff. You want people to come out, and you have to make friends to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
So, so here's one to get you thinking on as we close out the evening. Is there anything that you would wish to add to any certain aspect, any part of the music industry, whether it's fellow bands, promoters, ticket companies, the fans, you name it? And is there anything that you feel that important that needs to be said?
I think it's important that I think there's so many different things that could be improved upon. It's hard to really nail down one. Um, I know that one big one is streaming and the payout that bands will get from streaming services. Um, I think it was like Snoop Dogg who said that he got like over this like millions or billion streams and he got like no money from it. I mean, he got money from it, but compared to what you would think you would get from that, he didn't get like nearly anything near that. And so I think streaming is becoming a bit of an issue in some aspects like that because the streaming company isn't paying out to the band or the artist enough from what they made or what they put out. Um, and and there's even little things that I've heard about where it's the streaming services create AI music using AI
Mm-hmm.
bots, and then they promote it, and because it's now because it's their thing and they're promoting it, it's getting more push, which means people are listening to it more, which means that the revenue is just going right back into their pocket, so that they don't have
Mm-hmm.
to pay out bands; they could just pay themselves out. Which I've heard about, and if that is completely true, then it should be illegal because you're just taking away money from smaller bands or bands like us who are trying to make a living, and that's the payment that for us that doesn't go into any of our pockets. That goes right back into the band. That goes back into promotions and being able to push the songs and push the band on posts and fund that stuff. That doesn't go back to any of our
Mm-hmm.
pockets. Not like I'm spending that on groceries. That's going right back into the band. That goes right
Yeah.
back into
Guitar strings.
the guitar strings and equipment,
Yeah.
or like I said,
Drum
just
heads.
like I said, promotional stuff. Posting or
Mm-hmm.
pushing it using Spotify's own services and or pushing it on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. You know, so there's a lot of
YouTube's a good one.
YouTube is a good one, and
Mhm.
so I would say streaming is probably one of the biggest issues because I think there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been dealt with, and there's a lot of unfairness with that
Yep.
in certain aspects. And then I think I would really say that. And then social media is, like I said, is also kind of an issue because it's a popularity contest now. It's not about who's got the best music. It's about who's the most popular. It doesn't like. I think that's another really big issue is that it's a popularity contest. So all of these really great bands that are really doing well for themselves aren't getting enough push because they don't have enough followers or they're not in the limelight. And it's like that shouldn't be a determination. That shouldn't determine whether or not you make it. I think what it is it's become a thing of, well, you've already done all the work. You've already put in the work. You've gotten your followers. You've done all this stuff. Now we're going to take all of the good stuff from that, and that's going to go in our pockets. And so we're going to now promote you, but now you're going to owe us because now we're promoting you instead of all that stuff. Versus,
It's like you've seen the same interview I saw.
yeah, versus taking a band that has a lot of potential and pushing that band and then getting them up to where they're making that then they're earning you money because you've already invested in that band. Instead of investing in
Mm-hmm.
these little these smaller bands that are just trying to make it and are great bands but just don't have the push. They're investing in people that have already kind of made a name for themselves in some way, shape, or form, and they're just pushing that rather than it basically playing it safe and getting the rewards from that rather than going out on a limb and potentially losing some money or losing some revenue from trying to promote these people, which from what I've heard and what I understand is how they used to do things. That's how bands used to to work is that,
Mm-hmm.
they
Toby
the
Keith.
yeah, like record companies would take they would take the risk. I mean, and they also got their reward from it, don't get me wrong, but they would take the risk
Yeah.
on pushing a band that they thought had potential, and if it didn't work out, they already had 5 or 6 other bands that they're already pushing for potential to make up for that. And if it did work out, then it was great. The band got popular, those people got paid, the band got paid, but it's just gotten so far from that because of just, I think a lot of it's just greed and being able to take advantage of people and take advantage of a situation because everything's been evolving so fast within the music industry. It's hard to keep up, and the record companies can keep up because they've got people to focus on keeping up with that. So they're finding all the loopholes and finding everything. So it's become a hard game to play. So it's it's not an easy lifestyle, but it's fun doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think back of, the good old days when, like I mentioned, Toby Keith and all these other great musicians had to go to Nashville and, work for it. And, then, like you said, these companies would recognize that eventually and they would help these people, make it big.
Yeah,
Instead, nowadays, it's, like you said, hey, we see you with your, 5 million followers. Come on, we'll take you
yeah,
in.
yeah. We'll take you
No,
in. Yeah,
I don't like that. And, then, back to the whole Spotify thing and other streaming. I think it was Spotify that I'd seen that, things like, I could post these podcasts or whatever you want to call them, these interviews onto a Spotify channel. And that kind of takes down the pool of things. Like from what I saw, it's either the way they do it or the way they are trying to implement to do it, where it's like, you have all these podcasts and all these other things that's not music, and it's going to be taken away from the pool of money for the artist. It's like
yeah,
everything's collective.
yeah. Because so it's definitely pushing all that, and I don't think it's bad that they're pushing podcasts because I mean I'm not going to say I sit here and listen to a lot of podcasts. It's never been one of my things. Um, but it's also a thing that's only really kind of hit since I think podcasts have been around for a very long time, but I think it really only hit once to my knowledge at least, that was when Joe Rogan got a podcast and then all of the crazy stuff was said and like all of the people that he was interviewing. And once that hit and they realized that there's a market in this, they've now gone full-fledged into that market to try and get people to come to their platform and listen to this podcast. I'm exclusively on this. So it makes it to where people are wanting to listen to them. So it does good for those people's podcasts and stuff like that. And I think that there are still a lot of people that listen to music compared to that. But because of how popular these podcasts are, even if this person got a bunch of streams on their music because this podcast is more popular, they're going to get more money versus the person that streamed this amount of
Yeah,
songs. You know, it's just a very
it's a lot more
interesting
work. It's
thing.
a lot more money to go into music than it is a podcast.
Yeah, like
It's a lot more effort and a lot more money.
yeah, you have to
Pay fair.
yeah. So it's a lot of investment versus just having to, I mean, you still have to buy nice equipment, if you want a nice sound and stuff like that. But you don't have to worry about going out and playing shows or doing any of this stuff. You just get the right people on your podcast, or if you have the money, you pay somebody to come on your podcast. And just because that person was there, people are going to come watch it, you know?
Yep. Yeah. You don't have to worry about people spilling beer on your equipment or
Yeah.
um,
Ruining your equipment, coming up on stage.
your your equipment trailer in an accident and losing all your equipment. I mean, how many bands have done that?
I've seen so many, and it scares me to death because it's like I want to go out and I want to experience that kind of touring where you kind of go out for a few, for a week or two, and you go and you play every night. But I'm also so worried that somebody's just going to rear end our RV and completely ruin all of the equipment that's in the back.
Yeah.
So,
It's a big risk out there. Yeah.
I remember,
And insurance or not, insurance isn't going to cover tonight's show or tomorrow night's show.
yeah, that's the problem. Is like, yeah, it covers the equipment, so yeah, I can get that equipment back, but I'm not going to have it in time for the show. You know, so
Mhm.
that's a very
Especially
big
if there's a lot
thing.
of litigation, that there's a bunch of litigation with it that's going to drag that out even longer, and how many more shows and recordings and stuff that can affect.
Yeah.
It, it's it's a lot of money and a lot of work. So, anything else you'd wish to add to this one?
Um, I wouldn't say there's anything else that I want to add to any of the topics that we've talked about, other than we've got some shows planned. Follow the band, check us out. If you haven't listened to our music, go check us out at Ravens Banquet on Spotify, Apple. Go check out the band's social media. Go give us a follow. Share some of the music. I know we've got. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Lexi Tate, who's been a fan from New Zealand, who is posts about us every now and again, and is pushing the band on, like, their song radar, or, like, just saying that they love the music. And just go follow us at Ravens Banquet. And we appreciate everybody that goes and listens to the songs, everybody that goes and supports the band. We appreciate every one of you, because obviously we wouldn't be where we are without them. That's like I said, you can be a great band and still not get recognized. So I appreciate every one of the people that have streamed our music and listened to us and given us a chance and allowed us to reach out to them in that way.
Right on. Do you by chance have merch that's available, like a merch store or anything like that?
Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have any merch available online. We do have several shirts that we have available in shows. So if you guys want to come out to a show, you can get some
Mm-hmm.
merch. We have talked about getting merch online and getting all that set up. It's just sometimes it could be a little expensive because you have to pay to use a site to sell your merch, and so it's like, if I'm not selling enough merch, I'm not making enough money to not only cover the merch, but then cover paying for the website to have the merch up and available. So we're still talking about it. We're still getting it up in the air. We may, within the next few months, if possible, get a merch online set up. But we're also looking at maybe making some new merch and getting some more things available. So
Right on. So, guys, if you're interested in keep an eye out for the merch or for other shows, whether you're in Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, out west, go follow social media. Ravens Banquet. Ravens Banquet Band on Facebook. I know that one.
yeah,
Check them out on the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple. You said a couple others, didn't you?
yeah. There's like Deezer, and I think it's on Amazon Music as well. There's so many out nowadays. It's hard to keep up with them all. But
Yeah. So, guys, go check them out. Give them a follow. Give them a listen. And it's been a pleasure having you on here. There's no other comments. Nobody's asking any questions. So, yes, it's
thank you
definitely
for
been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And I know it was a little difficult to try and set up because when we were supposed to do it, I had just an awful amount of stuff come up, and
Mhm.
it was so last minute. I was just so upset about it because we had to go. But I'm glad that we could
Yeah,
get it set up again, and I'm glad that the storm that I
no
had rolling
doubt.
through here didn't mess up any of the connection. So I'm glad to have been
Right.
able to talk
Thank goodness.
and do this interview. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, it has been fun. And you've been full of a lot of good information, a lot of very valuable words. So,
You know,
thank you for being on here.
thank you. I
It's
appreciate it.
been a great pleasure. Let me come over here to my list real quick. So tomorrow afternoon we have Amanda Smith with the band Aquafire. And then tomorrow evening, no, Sunday evening, I have We Are Branches at 3, and then my good friend Raven Revival at 8. Those are both Sunday. So, guys, be sure to come on in and check those out.
Well,
Again, we've
I
got
saw a
Chase,
sticker
Raven
of Raven
Banquet.
Revival actually the other day when we were up in Austin. I'm pretty sure they have some stickers up there, and I've seen their name around a little bit, and I haven't but I don't think I've ever actually listened to their music. And I had a joke because there was another band down here that I think they called themselves the Ravens, and then there was another band that called like just after we had announced that we were Ravens Banquet, like maybe a few years later. There's a band that came out that's called the Ravens, and then there was another band that had another Raven name, and there was always this joke of we're just going to put on the Ravens Banquet show. It's just a bunch of bands named Raven, like with the name Raven in it. So I still might have to do that. I still might have to get a hold of Ravens Revival and see what kind of music they're playing, and maybe we'll try and get a show done with them.
Oh, that'd be fun. So yeah, I might have to bring you up to Oklahoma and do that.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to. We'll see.
It'd be a fun night for sure.
Yeah, I think it
So
would be fun.
thank you again very much. I'll let you get back to the studio, do whatever you got to do, and I'll get these uploaded and get them shared out to Facebook and YouTube and let people watch it again and again.
Yeah, so I'll
So,
if I don't get it, just send me a link to this, and I'll definitely be sharing it on the band's page, and I'll even do little snippets. I'll cut it up and make little promotional stuff that I'll invite as collaborator, and we'll get posted.
oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. I'll just make sure to do the actual video. Like I'll download this after I'm done and then re-upload it so that way Facebook won't delete it in 30 days.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
More work. Thank you, Facebook, but that's okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the 3 people viewing right now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
thank you.
People watching in the future, thank you for watching. Um, if you guys have anybody that you'd want to um, see interviewed on here, let me know, especially down there in the Texas area.
Mhm.
So, all right. You have a good night. Everybody watching, you guys have a good night and take care.
Take care, everybody.